Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show. Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
This is James Creechbaum with the Paranormal and World News. Shots fired during an attempted Bigfoot break-in. Yes, a man in Bainbridge Township, Ohio, told police that he had been trying to dissuade an intruding Sasquatch. The 60-year-old Lorraine Street resident called 911 on the morning of October 22nd after becoming convinced that a Bigfoot was trying to break into his house. Fearful for his life, he fired his gun into the backyard in an effort to scare the intruder away. When officers arrived, they asked the man if a bear could have been responsible. It ain't no beeping bear because it was jiggling my doorknob, he told them. The creature, which he described as being 7 foot tall, returned a second time, prompting him to fire a second warning shot because he was concerned that it was trying to go after his dog. He told the police that the Bigfoot was a regular in the area because his neighbor feeds it bananas. He also maintained that the local girl who went missing had been taken away by the creature. There was no evidence of animal tracks in the man's yard, and he did not appear to be intoxicated. As things stand, it remains unclear what, if anything, had tried to break into the man's house. Now, officers, concerning the Nimitz, officers were ordered to erase UFO evidence. Former USS Nimitz officers claimed that unknown individuals ordered them to hand over the recordings. One of the most intriguing new UFO cases that have come out to light in recent years. The USS Nimitz incident, which occurred in 2004 during a training exercise approximately 100 miles from San Diego, saw U.S. fighter pilots from the Nimitz carrier strike group encounter an unidentified flying object. Footage of the UFO was later published in 2017 and subsequently confirmed to be genuine. But given the circumstances, should there not have been a great deal more evidence? Now, a growing number of veterans who had served aboard the fleet at the time have described how mysterious individuals had shown up to prevent any such evidence from getting out. One of the men, Gary Voorhees, recalled how two unknown individuals had turned up on the USS Princeton. These two guys show up on a helicopter, which wasn't uncommon, but shortly after they arrived, maybe 20 minutes, I was told by my chain of command to turn over all the data recordings for the AGIS system, he said. Another officer, P.J. Hughes, was asked by his commanding officer to hand over all the recently secured hard drives from the E-2 Hawkeye early warning aircraft. The men were not on the ship earlier, and I didn't see them come on, he said. We put the drives in the bags. He took them. Then he and two anonymous officers left. Commander David Fravor, who was one of the pilots involved in intercepting the UFO, previously reported that he had obtained tapes of the encounter, which later disappeared from his locker. Someone must have been very keen to ensure that details of the incident were kept under wraps. Whoever they were, they must have believed that the Tic Tac UFO was secret, worth hiding. Also, a 3D image of Noah's Ark set to be revealed. The Turkish Ark hunter has captured a subterranean images of what he believes to be the real Noah's Ark. The final whereabouts of the biblical vessel have long remained a topic of a heated debate among historians, with many unable to agree upon whether or not it ever actually existed at all. Among those who do believe that the story of Noah actually happened, some maintain that the Ark has already been found at the Durapınnar site in Mount Tendorik in eastern Turkey. This large vessel-shaped formation first gained attention back in 1959, and there have been numerous expeditions to the site over the years by archaeologists hoping to prove that it really is Noah's Ark. Now, a film crew headed up by the veteran Ark hunter Cam Surtenson has reportedly visited the site with modern imaging equipment and has obtained 3D images of the alleged vessel that lies underneath. It isn't exactly clear how the images were obtained, but according to reports, it involves sending electronic signals underground via cables. These are the actual images of the Noah's Ark, said Suristam. They are neither fake nor simulated. They show the entire ship buried underground. Sadly, though, it looks as though we will have to wait a while longer to actually see these images, as they are going to debate in a new documentary entitled Noah's Ark 2, a follow-up to Centerson's early documentary Noah's Ark, which was released in 2017. Whether or not they will help to solve the mystery once and for all, however, remains to be seen. Next newscast will be tomorrow night.
You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Boy, I just can't believe this week has gone by so fast. One more day and tomorrow is Friday. And then we have the weekend. And then I'm going to be spending the weekend and changing things around in the studio again and again and again. Well, what can I say? I got to get more bookcases in. I got so many books coming in, James, in the paranormal. That it's just, I get it like 5 or 6 books a day, every day of the month. I could open a library or a used bookstore at this point.
I thought I had a big library, but I believe yours is probably bigger than mine. It's probably right up there with Ronnie Reagan's.
I don't know about that, but I can tell you this. I have boxes of boxes and boxes full of books because I just don't have no place to put them. Well, anyway, back with Russell. How you doing, my friend?
Good.
So, what do you think is going on? I don't know if you heard the show the other night. We had Terry Lovelace on. I think it was like his 3rd time being on. He was a former U.S. Attorney General, a lawyer many years in the medical field in Texas. He was abducted with his friend while he was in the Air Force. He was a medic. And they decided to go out camping over a weekend. And they thought they were in a state park. Well, it turned out to be federal land. But during the night, they saw this weird light. And it kept getting closer and closer. And then they saw it land. And then they saw some, creatures come out. And the next thing he knows that he's being abducted and going through, I guess, experiments. And it was scary what he explained. Remember that, James?
Oh, it was beyond scary. I'll tell you what, it was bone chilling. I still think about his interviews every day. Parts of it come to my mind. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard it, Russell, you need to go to the archives and listen to both of them. But one
of my immediate goals is to listen to all 367 of your episodes. See on the website and dig into the archives, because I imagine you have some really fascinating interviews on there.
Oh, yeah, but Terry Lovelace is probably the most, next to Whitney's, the most credible, the most scary. What he basically said, him and his buddy were lucky. They were released, and they were let go. And that's when it really got interesting, because he made the remarks or told somebody, because he's in the military, what happened to him. And then the guys in the suits came and they went as far as even getting him sodium pentothal. But it's scary what he endured. He said that here's all, when he was on the spacecraft, he's naked. He's holding his clothes. His friend is naked, holding his clothes. Then he notices women, children, and men standing, holding their clothes. And then he hears screaming of pain from women and stuff like that. They were the unlucky ones, evidently, because they weren't returned. He was lucky he was returned.
Well, if you read David Paulides' books about missing 411, a lot of people probably don't come back, because there's about 30,000 people a year that vanish from the face of the earth, and no one knows where they go. You were asking earlier what I think is going on. It's multifaceted. It's not just one thing. Jim Lorenzen used to talk about this, saying that people try to connect it to one big meta phenomena, but it may be that there's several independent, equally disturbing phenomena going on the planet. But one of them is flesh and blood creatures who are just like you and I. They bleed, and they're biological creatures. And there are researchers like Morris K. Jessup, who wrote the Case for the UFO and the Expanding Case for the UFO, that concluded that a lot of the flesh and blood creature sightings are going in between the Earth and the Moon. He thinks the Earth-Moon binary system is where a lot of these creatures are located. And there's also, from the probes that we've sent out into our local solar system, it appears that many of our moons have heat signatures inside them. Several of the moons of Saturn have really odd-shaped heat signatures inside. So there's evidence accumulating that our local solar system might actually be populated. And where do these creatures come from that are living in our local solar system? This goes back to Graham Hancock's work in something he calls the Younger Dryas impact event of 12,920 years ago, which is thought to have spawned all of the world's flood legends. On the commercial, I heard him mentioning Noah's Ark. And the story of Noah, as it exists in the Old Testament, is actually a rehashed, retold derivative of a 1,700-year previous story of the Epic of Gilgamesh about Untapishtim, the son of Upar-Tutu. And it's thought that the flood tale that has all the same elements of the Noah tale, only Sumerian and Sumerian cuneiform, was a racial memory from this very real event that happened 12,920 years ago, which it's thought that a fragmented comet hit the Earth and scorched it and flooded it. But previous to that, there seems to have been a globally interconnected megalithic civilization with people 10 or 12 feet tall with these giant skulls that have a different suture than Homo sapiens, that have a nerve foramen in the back of their skull where a nerve exits that we don't have. And the cradle boarding phenomena throughout the world appears to be an attempt to emulate this, they refer to them as Homo capensis. And the Homo capensis people, if you listen to researchers like L.A. Marzulli on the trail of the Nephilim, the Homo capensis was created by an ET race, a tall-skulled ET race, as a hybrid between Homo sapiens and their race. So there's a lot about a lost chapter of humanity prior to this catastrophe that happened. And other researchers like Jim Mars thinks that some of these more advanced people went off-planet to escape the catastrophe or inside the Earth, or in the honeycomb Earth, as we talk about it. There's apparently several ecosystems inside the Earth where people can live. And that brings up the time factor, because when you throw a ball up in the air, the reason it comes back is it's trying to gravitate to where time flows slower. Time flows slower on the surface of the Earth than it does in space, or it does even in the mountains. So if you go closer and closer to the 4,000-mile down center of the Earth, time will continue to slow down. Now, how much, I don't know. If they could stay down there for, 500 years and then come up here and, several thousand years have passed, who knows. But I've been trying to get a hold of Dr. Sean Carroll or Dr. Carlo Rovelli and ask them if there is, in fact, a mathematical formula that would demonstrate how much slower time passes for any populations that might exist. I won't put it to them that way, or they'll think I'm a nut. So I'm just going to say, let's just say somebody was living 3,000 miles down under. How much slower would time pass for them? So that was the biggest shock in Dr. Rovelli's material, is that what we consider our present moment is not shared as a common moment throughout the universe. In fact, Dr. Carroll mentions, I believe he's the one that mentioned that there's somebody out there in the universe whose present moment correlates with a moment in your life when you was 4 years old.